Paris, 1793. Dawn breaks through a gray sky as crowds gather in silence around a wooden platform. The blade of the guillotine glints coldly in the morning light, and the revolution that promised freedom now waits to deliver another execution. The crowd is quiet now, no cheering, no celebration, only the dull rhythm of a machine that has become the symbol of justice, fear, and death across revolutionary France. Just a few years earlier, the people of France had risen up against a king, demanding liberty, equality, and a new future. But revolutions rarely follow the path their dreamers imagine. What began as a fight for freedom slowly transformed into something darker as suspicion spread through every street, every home, and every whisper in the city. At the center of this growing storm stood one man whose vision of justice would push the revolution to its most terrifying extreme. Maximilien Robespierre believed the revolution must defend itself at any cost. To him, terror was not cruelty, it was justice. Under his leadership, thousands were arrested. Nobles, priests, merchants, and even fellow revolutionaries disappeared into prison cells across Paris. Trials became swift and merciless, often lasting only minutes before the verdict was delivered and the condemned marched toward the guillotine. Soon, the blade was falling every day, transforming the city into a place where fear ruled louder than the ideals of the revolution. The period would become known as the Reign of Terror, when the revolution began devouring its own children. Yet even those who supported the revolution began to wonder whether justice had turned into something far more dangerous. Fear spreads quickly among those who hold power, and soon the same men who once applauded Robespierre began to fear becoming his next victims. In July 1794, the fragile alliance holding the revolution together finally collapsed. Members of the government rose one after another, accusing Robespierre of becoming the very tyrant the revolution had sworn to destroy. Within hours, the once untouchable leader was arrested, stunned that the revolution he defended had turned against him. The next morning, the architect of terror stood beneath the same blade he had used against thousands. When the blade finally fell, the crowd remained strangely silent, as if the city itself was exhausted by blood. The death of Robespierre ended the terror, but it did not heal France. The revolution had destroyed the monarchy, but it had failed to create a stable government. Corruption spread through the new government, while food shortages and riots continued across the nation. France seemed trapped between revolution and collapse, desperately searching for stability. Yet while politicians struggled in Paris, the French army was winning remarkable victories across Europe. At the center of these victories was a young and ambitious general named Napoleon Bonaparte. Born on the island of Corsica, he had once been an outsider in France, but on the battlefield he proved unstoppable.
His campaigns in Italy shocked Europe as his smaller army defeated larger and better-equipped enemies. Soldiers admired him because he shared their hardships, marching beside them through mud, snow, and danger. With every victory, Napoleon's reputation grew until his name became known across the entire continent. Back in Paris, politicians began to worry that their greatest general might soon become their greatest threat. Meanwhile, Napoleon returned to France as a national hero, welcomed by cheering crowds. But behind the applause, Napoleon was already thinking about power. By 1799, the government of France was collapsing under corruption and political chaos. Napoleon realized the nation was desperate for strong leadership, and he believed he was the man destined to save the revolution. In November 1799, soldiers loyal to Napoleon quietly surrounded the government buildings of Paris. Inside the assembly hall, frightened politicians suddenly realized they had lost control. The moment became known as the Coup of France. The revolution that had overthrown a king now placed its future in the hands of a single military ruler. Over the next few years, he restored stability, rebuilt the economy, and reformed the laws of France. In 1804, inside the great cathedral of Notre Dame, Napoleon prepared for the moment that would change history forever. Then, in a stunning act, he crowned himself emperor, proving that the revolution, which began with liberty, had ended with an empire.